we'll look at.
You can load it back or get a phone call back.
It's 6:30. We will call to order the April 11th State Development meeting. We have, Alice, do we have anybody signed up to speak on anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we will move on to item C, discussion and review the year-to-date financial statements for March 2022. I did have one question. I was curious about. On page 6, there was some additional advertising costs for the month. Is there anything in particular that was for?
Yep. Want to go? Or I'll tell.
Go ahead.
We did some stuff for swag, giveaway stuff. We've got a big veterans deal that's coming through town. We're also a sponsor of the Chisholm Trail 100 Club events. We've got a lot of literature going out to them. It's just some extra stuff to cover those two items. And we should get some of the rest of it. And we're going to get a little gift bag together for you guys too, so that you know what's going out.
So you know what we want.
Yeah.
Nice, wouldn't it? At least a presentation of.
But yeah, that's what it was. It's some stuff to get the name out there a little bit.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Everything else, I don't think there's anything significant on here. Revenues are still doing well. I hope that the legislature doesn't mess that up for us with their bill that they're trying to get through. I called Dwayne Burns today and voiced our opposition to that. He's going to come sit down and visit with us. Could be a significant change if it right now.
What is it they're trying to do?
They're trying to change the sales tax point of sale and internet sales and things like that, which have really pushed us well above projections. We would lose that.
So what are they wanting to do?
There are people pushing to where it's point of sale, where the sale would go to wherever the product shipped from, basically, instead of where it ends up.
And isn't that what it used to be?
That's what it used to be until all this online stuff, until states started. So the bill passed committee the last session, but it didn't make it to the House floor. So, and then several cities sued. So right now they've got a temporary injunction because it was an administrative order. And so they've got that stopped, but it could come back up again next year. So we're going to start working with Burns and Senator Byrd. Well, it won't be Senator Birdwell after another month or so.
Fishing for it? Is somebody out of
I don't know. I haven't seen the bill. We're working on getting it, the last version of it. I just hadn't had time to get it pulled up today, and Representative Burns is going to get it pulled up and get his staff looking at the history of it too. He wasn't real familiar with it, so he wasn't on that committee. So, and because it didn't make it to the floor, so he's going to look into it, see how it, so we can get an idea of how it's going to affect us. But the way it's written right now, it would be, I mean, it'd be a couple $100,000 a year.
Yes.
It would be a big hit. So
We've benefited quite nicely from that.
well, and especially now, because even though things are starting to open back up, people are still shopping online. I mean, that number goes up every month, and it's significant.
Amazon's still a big online.
The biggest.
Probably bring in a fourth of revenue on Amazon.
It's a lot, and now that you have it, you don't want to lose it. So when you give something back, you never can get it. So
I would look or something. I went to Burleson, went to all the farm stores and feed stores, and went to Cleveland, all the farm stores, feed stores, came home, got on Amazon, got the next day.
Well, it's, a lot of the stores are not stocking stuff because they're shipping so much out, so. I think the day of the really big box stores is probably gonna slow down. People are changing their footprint.
Anybody else have any questions on the financial statement? Item number 2, discuss, consider possible action on the meeting minutes of January 10th through January 27th. Alex, just one typo on the January 27th
Okay.
for on item A will be adjourned. We just mentioned city council instead of.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have it corrected. Thank you.
Do we have we need a motion to accept those with the one edit?
Move to approve.
Second. All those in favor? And that was for both January 10th and January 10th. Discuss, consider possible action on approving the annual partnership service agreement between the Fort Worth Chamber and City of Joshua Economic Development Corporation in the amount of $1,500.
Yes, well, he came and gave his presentation, and it's already, the contract just wasn't ready at the time that he did the presentation, and then we had to cancel that previous month's meeting. So what you have in front of you is the contract, and just so you can look over it and approve, just to sign it.
And there's not anything different than from
Nothing
what
is
the
different.
original presentation was. Questions on this one?
If you would to, in your motion, stipulate authorization for a signer, whether that's, it can be you, I mean, whoever, it doesn't matter. Just give somebody the authorization to sign it so that it's covered.
We have a motion. Motion to approve. You would have to say who.
Yes, specify somebody.
Okay, do we have a second? A second. I would have a motion to approve the agreement with Fort Worth Chamber and for myself to be the signer. All those in favor? Discuss, consider possible action on the budget amendment for 21-22.
You just send this to Terry. So she can sign this one. We just call this the original.
Okay.
Let me get my amendment out of here first. Yeah, there you go. Okay, we did the council approved the budget amendment last month in their budget meeting, and the biggest change that you see here, if I remember correctly, is we asked the council to dedicate some money to help some businesses because of a lot of the COVID stuff, lost revenues. People are starting to kind of reopen and do things. And we've been kicking around having a facade improvement grant for a few years. That is one of the things that is qualified under the ARPA funds that we received from the federal government, the COVID relief fund, because that could be used for small business incentives to make improvements to their facilities, redo landscaping. And so they have allocated $100,000 of that money that the board you'll see in just the next item or two, the application and then kind of a draft of some guidelines that we will formalize in the next meeting or two and then make those available for people to apply. They would be 50% matching reimbursement. So if they would come in with their packet, their application, if they spent $20,000 and y'all decided that you're going to cap it at 10,000, they could be reimbursed up to $10,000 with this money. And those are the things that we'll work out later when we talk about it, is where you think those amounts need to be, and then we'll start plugging those numbers in and tossing it around. We'll need another meeting to, give y'all time to give some consideration to it and see how you want to work it. But I think it'd be a pretty good program, and it's some money that we can give back. This guy that opened up this nursery has spent a ton of money fixing that place up. That may be something that, we could reach out to him. He may want to apply for some of that money, or just any business that puts in for it. So we've moved that money into y'all's account. That was $100,000. The other adjustment was about just under $8,000, $7,400. The 380 agreement that was signed a couple of years ago when Josh was here for the development in Joshua Station of Starbucks. That agreement had in it incentives, rebates, and the city gave up 100% of the sales tax and 100% of the ad valorem tax in that agreement. And we didn't know about it at the time when we did the budget, so we had to get that money reallocated because it was signed by the then president of this board, and it was signed by the then mayor at the time, who is not the mayor anymore, but we're still obligated. So
that term is.
that term is for 10 years or $400,000, whichever comes first.
Merry Christmas.
At the rate that you've seen since they've been open, do you think that they're going to?
It's only been a couple of months, and the ad valorem tax is only the incremental value that it increased from what they did. The basic cost of the property, that'll stay with us, whatever the increase is, and then we'll wait on those appraised values to get. That won't go out to them until next year anyway, but we have started paying. We have started reimbursing the sales tax. We're going to do that quarterly. That first payment went to them this past month. So we got that plugged in and got that number put in. And other than that, that was, I don't think there were any other, those were the only two items that affected this board.
All right, so we need to approve that amendment.
Correct. Yeah, you're basically ratifying the council's. The council can approve. They have to approve your budget too, but so do you. So yeah, you'll need to approve this or not approve the amendment one way or the other, and then we'll go from there. I guess if you don't want the 100,000, I guess you don't have to take it. Some of the businesses might like to.
We have a motion on the amendment to the budget. Second. All those in favor? Number 5, discussion on the draft stock grant program.
As we discussed earlier, what I have for you is an overview of what the facade grant requirements are going to be, and then attached the long form is the application. So we wanted to give you plenty of time to go over it, to get your input of what you would like to see added or maybe removed, or if you approve all of it, it'd be great. So Mike went over a little. Oh, yeah. Some of the criteria is fairly simple. It only applies to existing buildings, and it's gonna cover paint, trim, replacing fascia boards, anything that can upgrade. We also included landscaping in there as well. It's not gonna include anything that you cannot see from the main road or main parks or anything like that. So if they want to add something to the back of their business, it doesn't qualify for this. The whole point is to beautify not only 174, but also the downtown here to help upgrade and just cause an appealing appearance when you were driving through the city. If you take your time to look through it over the past couple weeks, we'll bring this back to the next meeting. Add your comments, any additions, subtractions that you're wanting to.
Actually, it'd be more helpful if you have comments, if you would send those to us prior to the meeting, and then we can get those plugged in. And then maybe have you a final draft for the next meeting.
Can I ask who the grant committee is?
That was my question.
We've kicked around some stuff. Ultimately, it would be for y'all to approve that committee. We've talked about, because we think the timing of most of those meetings and to avoid so that y'all remain the approving body, is that we would have appoint staff to get it put together, say it qualifies, say it doesn't, then we would present all the stuff to you. Right now, we've talked about having Molly, Amber, and Aaron, the Development Services Director, that would serve as that. They would accept the applications, look to see if they qualified, get the total stuff, go out and actually inspect, make sure the stuff is done. And then they would provide a written report to you for each one with a recommendation if it meets the criteria or it does not. And then ultimately y'all would have final approval, and then the council would approve that. I think the council has to approve that expenditure as well. Right now they approve all of your expenditures, so we'd probably keep it that way. And I think because of the funding mechanism being to the city, the council has to authorize expending that money. So it would go to them too, but I don't know that they would not take your recommendation.
So if the 100,000 runs out,
Well, you can choose to add to it. We also have another round of this money coming, the same amount, another just over $1 million. And I think August or September is when we got it last time. And so we can ask the council to consider funding that again. If we get a big response and it's successful, we could go back and ask them to consider it now. Just really, or you could choose to assign some of your fund balance to go towards it. And when that time comes, then we can have that conversation. And if you want us to present it to the council again, we will. Or it's really up to you guys. We've got some options.
I did want to point out, I did make a typo, because it does say facade grant committee. It's actually going to be, if you look on the application, it's a design review committee under part 2. So we're going to call it the design review committee for the in-house committee. Because that's really what we'll be doing. We'll be approving the design, and like he had stated, making sure they hit all the qualifications, make sure it's exactly what the application is calling for before we even bring it to you for the approval.
So if we have a limit of $100,000 on here, and we're looking at, we're potentially looking at
Maybe if they all spend that much. Some may come in they may only spend $10,000, and so it's a 50% reimbursement that would be capped, and that cap doesn't have to be 10,000. That cap can be lower if you want it lower. Those are the things that I need y'all to chew on for a few days, and we'll see where you land. That's just a number that the reason we put it that much is it doesn't take much to spend that currently. And
I'm
so
also trying to think of how are we able to make this available to more people, because you've got a bigger company that they can come in and they can take a big chunk, and you've got these, smaller companies that aren't gonna chew up as much, but I don't know.
Well, building material is through the roof. It ain't gonna take long to knock out $10,000.
Yeah,
I mean, two before I used to pay $2, it's $8 now.
yeah. There are some, I mean, there's some challenges with it, and some, you may have some that turn in for more than that. But if they spend $100,000, the maximum we're going to give them is 10. If y'all approve that, so I don't know that you're going to see those people even coming in here, quite honestly. I think we're going to see the smaller groups, and that's who we're going to target. We're going to send this stuff out. We're going to work with the chamber to get the word out to some of them, and then we'll see where we land. But again, I mean, I think there is additional funding there if it turns out to be successful. It behooves this board for businesses to succeed, especially those that pay sales tax, and it behooves the council. So, and it's, that's one of the things this money is earmarked for. It's one of the reasons we got it. So the council wanted to send some of this out to the business community where we could, and help some of them out.
And on the positive side, even if we're only able to help 10, that's 10 new business beautification projects in a year. That's drastic. That's wonderful.
So for example, that daycare, that used to be a daycare, they are doing a lot of work on the front.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to look like. Or they could apply, for example.
Yes, so
Yeah.
that is something that you'll need to decide too, because in the actual criteria, it says any work that is done prior to them applying for this, they don't qualify for.
I would kind of like to see at least introductory for this first time in, if they've done something recently, I mean, for the inception of this, maybe since we've just now started this, be able to look back.
And if that's y'all's direction, this is just a draft. It can be, if you want to allow it to go back
If they're
6
already-
months, if you want to allow it to go back when COVID started, that's a decision for y'all to make, and then that's the way we'll write it in.
But if they've already fixed it, then what we were looking for is the new people to fix it.
No, and I agree, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you put a smaller window of time, because you're talking about the nursery and daycare, and stuff, they are excluded from this because, I'm sure that they're probably going to continue to do more as they develop, but.
Well, it's just like that car guy. That place was fixed up very nice when the guy that owned it did it. We wanted to be able to have something this to offer him then. We just didn't have it in place, nor did we had secured funding for it. And so now that we have, I don't think that it's unreasonable to go back, whether it's 6 months or a year or something that maybe they're currently doing, that we can reach out to them. And if it still meets the stuff, still going to make things look better, if it meets the requirements other than they did it a few months ago, if that's something that you want us to consider, I don't think that's unreasonable to do. We are going to need to put some sort of a
You gotta put something around
time
it.
limit on it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something depending on when the permit was pulled, or there's any of a number of ways that we can work it.
And you said it's all on 174 in downtown area, but for example,
Well, really, it could be anybody who is.
Yeah. That was just one of the areas we were focusing on, because that's where people see the most, but
well,
it's
that's
not.
little strip mall where Becky's is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
It's a commercial facade grant, so any commercial building would qualify. But we're going to target our efforts. Our target is going to be what people see. 174, the downtown area, and of course, 12th Street is very heavily traveled too. So yeah, that strip center would certainly qualify.
I like the idea.
I do too. So Okay, so what makes the most sense for us to just kind of chew on this and email you our individual thoughts, and then y'all, the next month would kind of come back with.
Yeah, I think we'll kind of compile the stuff and do some back and forth, and then we'll present you something. We can actually keep a list of what all y'all suggestions are, and
Okay.
then we can go through. We'll allow a little more time next month and finalize it and then
Okay.
roll it out.
And I'll send each of you an email, so you have my email.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
so
perfect.
Might be nice. huh?
Back to the gentleman who's done the nursery. When did he start that?
They started it. It's been several months. I'd have to go back and look at the permits and see.
Was it before the first of the year?
Thanks.
I don't know.
I know he did a little, then he.
I know he had a lot of
He had a
wait
lot of
time for
construction going on
equipment
there.
and
I know we were up there
then of course
looking.
getting materials and stuff. It took him a while to get up and running. It's a chain. He's got, I think, 2 or 3 more
Yeah.
of those.
One by Finland. He's got one by.
Yes.
And I think he's got one in,
Arlington.
Yeah, I think he has.
there's one in
There
Weatherford.
was one that he did end up closing down and wanted to focus on this one here. But I think that one was in Arlington.
Yeah.
but he-
I think Weatherford and Benbrook or something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking he told me. Very nice guy.
Yeah, he's been very successful.
So yeah, that would be great.
Sure.
We'll keep a tabulation of all the suggestions, and then we can get that all to you for the next meeting and make some decisions.
Any other discussion on this item? Item D, future agenda items requested by director to be on the next agenda. So to make a decision as far as having, oh, you said that you're gonna check the bylaws.
Yes.
See if there's a concern with having 3
Correct.
council members on the same board.
Correct.
Okay, so then we can determine if anything has to happen at the next meeting.
Right. And if there is, I will email, let everybody know. Well, either way, I email. And then if there is, it'll be on the city council agenda, so they know also.
And do you want that listed for this next meeting?
If we have to do something, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
there's
because
an
it'll be.
issue with having 3 council members or more than 1 council member on the board, then we have to make a decision on what to do.
Okay. Yeah, we can check that.
Any other items to add? I did have a question. Is there a point in time where you plan on having an update on the item from the January 27th?
Yes, so we can have an executive session on that for the next meeting, because. Yes,
Thanks.
This is what we're talking about in the morning?
No.
I never know with you. All different directions.
there's a
This-
lot of things going on, so there's a lot to update you on.
You are definitely getting your money's worth with this one.
All right, anything else before we adjourn? All right, at 6:59, we will adjourn.